guys, it's me, Golda May. Somebody please help. Poetry that the media's been gone for so long and his content's so good, I just don't know what to do.
Shut up, bitch. Bitchute's anti-media's back. Roll that intro beat, DJ.
Look at my son. Pride is not the word I'm looking for. There is so much more inside me now.
Dispatch, be advised, we are receiving reports of a small child that has run away from his parents into the woods and is now missing. Also be advised, the child is also extremely autistic. Over.
Oh no. I ran away from my parents and now I'm lost in the woods and I don't know where I'm at. Have you guys seen my mom? Well, I guess while I'm out here, I might as well go ahead and do a YouTube video about Hamas attacking Israel. I'm sure somebody will find me eventually. I mean, this whole thing's so crazy, it's hard to really decide on where to even begin on this. So, Hamas attacks Israel. Allegedly, over 1,000 people were killed. We see gruesome footage of Israeli women being kidnapped, paraded around. Really tough stuff to watch. We have a spokesperson for Hamas on RT seeming to suggest that humanitarian aid that was supposed to go to Palestinian civilians was being pushed toward military operations and attacks and funding Hamas soldiers.
البعض يتساءل وهذا سؤال رائج وشائع يعني من قام بتشييد 500 كيلومتر من الأنفاق لماذا لم يشيد مآوي يلجأ إليها المدنيون خلال القصف؟
نحن شيدنا الأنفاق لأنه لا نملك ما ندفع به عن أنفسنا من القتل والاستهداف غزة. فأنت تعلم والجميع يعلم بأنه 75% منه لاجئين، واللاجئين هو مسؤولية الأمم المتحدة في حمايتهم، مسؤولية الاحتلال في أن يقدم كل تبعا لاتفاقية.
He also mentioned that apparently the attack was being planned for about a couple of years, and the result being about a little over a couple of thousand untrained retards, armed like something from the Looney Tunes, paragliding in and riding in with motorcycles, managing to sneak one on the Israelis, one of the most high-tech, high-defended borders in the world, and killing over 1,000 people, which so far has resulted in really nothing more than giving the green light for the huge and major retaliatory attacks that Israel is now dealing to the Gaza Strip. Now, the first question one might ask in this situation is, what exactly was Hamas planning to accomplish? I mean, with a military that's so many leagues ahead of you in technology, you're going to want to, if you really want to deal a blow that's at least going to have some sort of economic lasting effects on this country, you're going to want to invade with at least tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. But instead, they attacked with just between 2,000 to 3,000 ragtags riding on motorcycles and paragliders against one of the most highly sophisticated militaries in the world. There's absolutely nothing that they could have hoped to accomplish other than causing enough terror to justify Israel just completely wiping the Gaza Strip off of the map. Not to mention the rumors that go around about Hamas being an outfit that was actually propped up by Israel in the first place, which they propped up against the other Palestinian opposition, which was a more moderate party, the Fatah party, or however you pronounce it. You see, it makes sense when you really think about it to see how Israel having their enemies being a bunch of over-the-top psychopath retards is actually beneficial to them. It's good propaganda business. It's much better for them that their enemies are not moderate, are not sensible people, but are just over-the-top psycho retards. Now, I want to also emphasize that this isn't something that I'm just like pulling out of thin air or something that I got from some niche anti-Zog blogger. You can actually read this on a lot of mainstream articles as well. For example, an article by the Israeli Times says, "For years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas." The Intercept, Israeli officials considered Hamas an asset. And another from the Intercept back in 2018, how Israel went from helping to create Hamas to bombing it. Before I get more into that aspect of it, to emphasize just how retarded this attack really was, I would really like to take you back a few decades. Now, as much as a critic I am of Israel, there is one old Israeli prime minister that I can't really help but have a decent soft spot for. That is Prime Minister Golda May. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Mayor, sometimes they say mayor. But I'm just going to say Golda May for this video. She was very stern, hard-headed, stubborn, and very exhaustingly argumentative. And quite frankly, I love that about her. She kind of reminds me of that video of those old labor union guys that was titled about how fun it is to listen to them argue about stuff.
You have a man getting $13,000 driving a vehicle which is out of title, and a man is sitting down $7,000, that's all he gets for a starting salary. A motor vehicle operator. Why doesn't the city put a motor vehicle operator on that truck for $7,000?
Even if you didn't agree with what she was saying, you can tell she was really passionate about it and believed in it for what she felt was the greater good.
Abdullah simply announced one bright morning he annexes the West Bank. He would never allow it to him.
Invited by a gathering of West Bank leaders to come in and annex it, even if the legality of that gathering was disputed.
All right. Assuming that is so. By the way, if it was so legal, how is it that only 2 countries in the world, until '67, recognized the legality of this annexation? It was only Great Britain and Pakistan.
How many countries recognize your occupation of the West City of Jerusalem?
Yes, but nobody's asked questions. Every other day, Abdullah, why did you annex the Western Bank? But never mind.
You could tell that she was really passionate about it and cared about it and believed in it.
Then let us, all of us, abide by the resolution of ceasefire. Ceasefire means that everything on the canal must be absolutely quiet, no shooting. The minute that Nasser says that he's prepared, we'll be happy to comply. But as long as Nasser does not abide by the ceasefire, he announced publicly that he doesn't recognize that there is a state of ceasefire and keeps on shooting, there's nothing in the world that can force us to use exactly the same methods as he uses against us.
She was also an overseer of what was probably one of the biggest wars in all of Israel's history, that being the Yom Kippur War. Now, that war isn't really as much talked about as some of the other wars, like the 1948 war or the 1967 war. And why is that? So, Egypt and Syria attacked Israel with a surprise attack on a holiday. First, Egypt attacked the Sinai Peninsula, and then Syria attacked the Golan Heights. As opposed to the 1967 war, where Israel actually attacked first in what they viewed as a preemptive strike because Egypt closed the whatever strait or whatever, and they wiped out a big chunk, almost all of Egypt's air force in just one sweep and just annihilated them in that surprise attack. But this time it was Egypt that was getting the surprise attack. Not only that, but Egypt was more beefed up than they were before with Soviet arms and surface-to-air technology. Their military was a lot larger and also much more state-of-the-art than what it was during the 1967 war. As a matter of fact, the coalition that attacked Israel during this war was twice the size as the coalition that Israel was fighting against during the 1967 war. The surprise attack was initially a disaster and earned Egypt a lot of early victories, but because of Golda Meir's resolve, which earned her the title the Iron Lady, she was able to turn the momentum around. Israel was able to turn that momentum around and gave them a beatdown that was even worse than the 1967 war.
Saddam must, I think, be given time to enjoy his defeat and not to immediately, by political manipulation, turn that into a victory. Not because I want him defeated or humiliated, but for God's sake, he starts a war. Our people are killed. His and the many thousands are killed, and he has been defeated.
But because of those early victories, and because this happened at the cost of over 2,000 Israeli soldiers dying, it was a political disaster. Such a political disaster, in fact, that Golda Meir actually had to step down the year afterwards. Which is kind of a shame in my opinion, because even though I'm a hardcore critic of Israel, Golda May really seemed like someone who cared about Israel growing into something that was a positive force and example for not just Jews, but for, the entire region as a whole.
And there are people that have come from underdeveloped countries from 16th, 17th century. And we want to bring them up to 20th, 21st century civilization. This is our joy. These are our dreams. These are our ideals. This is where we want our young people to put their effort in, and not in defending borders.
As opposed to it just being just some centerpiece for the New World Order, which is what it's, in the big picture is what it really is. I mean, you can look at Israel through two lenses, which is like Israel as just like a nation, and then Israel in the larger scheme of things, that's in the larger scheme of things, that's what it is. But I'm sure there are some people who do care about Israel just as a nation and it being a positive nation and a positive example. And Golda May kind of came across as that kind of person.
We want everybody to be happy in the world. We want everybody to have a high standard of living. All the good in the world from the depths of our heart to everybody in the world, on condition that we are here.
Now, the reason why it's important to use it as an example, because it really emphasizes, I mean, you look at the stakes and what Egypt had in mind as opposed to Israel, and the comparison and the force that Israel was hit by at that time, and how yet still it was considered a military disaster, a political disaster on Israel's part. And when you look at that, it further emphasizes how ridiculous this Hamas attack is. Here you have Hamas managing to, as opposed to the forces of Egypt and Israel that attacked during the Yom Kippur War, you had these guys that are just like a couple of poorly trained ragtags that fly in on literally like Looney Tunes equipment, like Acme Looney Tunes crap, and go in and are able to slip on Israel and cause that much damage. At the least, it's got to be looked at as an even worse political disaster and just a total embarrassment for Netanyahu, assuming that, this was a genuine surprise, which I don't think it is. As a matter of fact, we're going to close this off and just be blunt with you on, that basically my point, and to wrap it all up, I really do believe that Hamas is just an Israeli asset, a boogeyman, if you will, to help promote the idea of Israel being able to just do what they want with the Gaza Strip. And now they have allowed Hamas to do just as much damage and just as much terror that now it's going to justify everything that they want to do in the Gaza Strip. Now, to be fair, even though you can find mainstream articles on this, I really have to go off of speculation on a lot of what I just said. But I mean, when you piece 2 to 2 together, it's kind of hard to deny it, in my opinion. But anyways, I suppose that's really all I wanted to say about this subject. Hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry I haven't been around in a long time. I just, sort of lost my luster in the YouTube thing. But I mean, I figured it would be good if I came back, because you don't really see people making really good content on stuff anymore. And a lot of the content creators on these types of subjects that are real have really died down, especially since Brendan O'Connell sort of like jumped out of the scene, which I hated to see. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I suppose that's everything. Happy Halloween.